we want to thank the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute for sponsoring this video. MMI is a school for motorcycle enthusiasts who want to train for a career in the industry. Click the link above for more information.
What's up guys, Ryan with Motorcycle.com, and if you clicked on the video you already know what you're here for. It's the 2023 Suzuki GSX-8S. So this is now the second model that I've gotten a chance to ride with this new engine in it. It's a 776cc parallel twin with a 270 crank. Obviously an engine configuration that's become very popular in the middleweight class, whether it's bikes like this or adventure bikes. We see it from a lot of different manufacturers these days. This is the first completely new engine and really platform that Suzuki has put out in quite a while. And in the V-Strom, kind of kicked ass. And in the 8S, it surprised me even a little bit more than I expected. I already knew what the engine was like, so I knew what to expect, I thought. But it's even a little more punchy than I originally thought it would be. Before we get into that a little bit more, we've got a really nice low seat height. It's just over 31 inches, really easy to get to the ground, no problems there. The seat's super comfortable. The bike has somewhat of a long wheelbase, but that makes it feel really stable. The brakes, you got dual 310mm rotors up front with Nissan calipers. They get the job done pretty well. It's actually the same steel frame from the V-Strom with a different subframe. So you've got some carryover parts there too. But overall, the bike works really well. The suspension is non-adjustable except for preload in the shock. And then also you have a TFT display, ride-by-wire throttle, and within that you're getting 3 ride modes, A, B, and C. C being the most intervention, A giving the sharpest throttle response. And then you have 4 levels of traction control, including off. So you get a nice little electronic suite with this bike. So Suzuki invited us out here to southern France to test this motorcycle, and I would say the roads that we spent our time on today definitely played to the strengths of this motor and this motorcycle. That said, it was an absolute ripper of a day. We had a good group of guys and a good guide, and they showed us some of the incredible roads around here, and some very tight. In the morning it was quite cold and a little bit wet, so using that traction control, I was seeing the TC light coming on because the motor is very punchy, especially when you have it in A mode. I decided when I took off in A mode around town that I'd rather bring it down a little bit, so I kept it in B while we were around town. Sharp, tiny curves, me trying to keep up with the group and watch for oncoming traffic. B was just one less thing to think about because it wasn't such a sharp throttle response. And then once we got out into the mountain roads, really wasn't that bad either, but switching it back into A made it that much better. You know, once you're out to ride and have a good time, A mode makes a lot of sense because you get a nice sharp throttle response. But again, you can rev this motor out a little bit if you want, or you can kind of keep it at the low to mid, like around, I would say like 6,000 and 7,000 RPM. You get a big hit of power at the higher end of the RPM range. Once you're up there, you do feel the vibration despite the motorcycle having dual counterbalancer set up. There is a little bit of vibration that creeps through. That being said, if you're out riding and you've got the bike revved up to that much, you probably don't mind because you're out ripping and having a good time. As far as the brakes go, good initial bite, not a ton of feel, but it's got enough power to get the thing stopped really well. No issues with that. ABS is not, you can't change that. It's one setup, not cornering ABS. The suspension, I wanted to adjust it pretty quickly. The rear end, there's only preload adjustment on the shock, so that's the only thing that you get to work with. But that being said, I think the bike needed some preload added from the beginning. We had it on the second notch setting, which it's numbered, which is convenient, and we dialed it up to 5, and that made the bike feel like it was working a lot better, keeping weight on the front end. Always a good thing to set your preload. Doesn't matter what bike you have. If you've got the ability to do it, you should do it. And it'll make the bike handle the way it's supposed to. And then I think another nitpick would be there's a bit of driveline lash. And I actually jumped between a couple bikes, and it seemed like some were a little bit more prone to it than others. I don't know if that was just the chain slack, but it seemed like it could have been just that. The quick shifter. Because I had a chance to jump between a couple bikes, I noticed on another bike it was working better than the bike I started off with. So there were a couple things that just seemed a little bit inconsistent between some of the models. But that being said, none of it stopped us from having quite a good rip today. I would say where this bike sits in the class, it's stacked, right? You've got like a 600cc segment, and you kind of got a 900-ish cc segment of the middleweight naked bike class. I think this is going to punch into the higher end of that. You know, it's on the lower end of displacement for that category, but the engine is really good. It's a peach of an engine. Suzuki did a great job. And I think weight-wise, we're around 445 pounds, which puts it at the top end of the weight in the category. So there's that. Again, it handles slower than some of the other middleweight nakeds, but not too much slower. And it also feels incredibly stable. Again, I mentioned we had some wet and gravelly roads this morning, and there were times where I felt the bike sliding around, but it wasn't ever unpredictable. So when it did have a little slide, it kind of straightens itself really quickly. And again, probably long wheelbase and whatnot. This is definitely going to be a contender in the category. Again, the roads we were on went from really tight to slightly more open highway stuff, big, long, sweeping turns, super tight turns. A great set of roads for this engine. So, you know, Suzuki did a good job making sure that we had good roads to ride this thing on. That said, I think it's probably going to do just fine anywhere else. And of course, we want to get this bike once we are back stateside and do a bit of a comparison test or even a longer term test with this machine to kind of live with it and see how it works everyday use. It was great around town. It was great in the mountain roads today. So I have pretty high expectations that it's going to do well amongst the category. So this bike's going to retail for $88.50 in the States, and it's supposed to be available spring, summer timeframe. So look forward to that. Again, hopefully we can get our hands on one sooner than later and get a more thorough review for you. As of right now, this is my thoughts digested within 30 minutes of jumping off the bike. So if you want all the specs, all the detailed stuff, head on over to Motorcycle.com. We'll have the full write-up over there. And thanks for watching, guys.
We want to thank the Motorcycle Mechanics Institute for sponsoring this video. MMI is a school for motorcycle enthusiasts who want to train for a career in the industry. Click the link above for more information.